let's be real for a second, okay? Picking out bathroom tiles. It shouldn't feel like, diffusing a bomb,
Right.
but somehow it always does. I mean, between the endless choices and then trying to find a decent contractor who doesn't ghost you,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, actually sticking to your budget,
Oh, yeah.
bathroom renovations are just like the definition of overwhelming.
It's a minefield out there. It really
Yes,
is.
totally. Which is why I love these kinds of deep dives. So you sent over these materials from, let me see, LJB Bathroom Renovations.
Mm-hmm.
And they're based in Newcastle, Australia. So I'm thinking, okay, at first glance, it's the usual, right? They've got service descriptions, a bunch of testimonials, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This stuff, it can be surprisingly juicy. Like you can almost see the company's subconscious kind of leaking out onto the page.
Totally. You can tell a lot about a company's values, even how they view their clients, by paying attention to how they talk about themselves, even if it's subtle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So should we dissect this, see if LJB is the real deal, and more importantly, what kind of bathroom reno wisdom we can, borrow?
Real?
Exactly. No matter where we are in the world.
Let's do it. I'm game if you are.
Okay, so flipping through this, the first thing that jumps out is just how much they use the words quality and customer service. Like it's almost comical.
Well, yeah, those are definitely their like buzzwords.
Right.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Website copy, those little bullet points. It's like they're trying to hypnotize us.
Totally. But I feel like every contractor claims to be good at that stuff. So how do we cut through the marketing lingo and figure out if they actually walk the walk?
The testimonials are usually a good place to start. I mean, anyone can say they're the best, but actual happy customers, that's a little harder to fake.
True.
And what I found really interesting with LJB is the consistency.
Oh,
Not just in that they have positive reviews, but the language itself, like how their customers talk about their experience. It mirrors the way LJB talks about themselves.
okay. Now you have to give me an example.
Okay. So there's this one from Joshua Morgan. He leaves this short and sweet review, calls the whole renovation easy to work with,
Okay.
which on the surface may not seem like much,
Right.
but it really plays into LJB's whole thing about being, a personalized approach and making the whole renovation stress-free.
So it's not just about being good at something, it's about being good at the things you're saying you're good at.
Exactly. And then you've got like Vicky Dunn. She wrote this whole saga, and it's actually kind of hilarious, about how her dog was stuck in lockdown during the entire renovation.
Oh no. Talk about
Just right?
Yeah.
But even with all that chaos, she goes on and on about how professional and respectful everyone from LJB was.
Interesting.
And that goes right back to those stated values again. So it's like, okay, maybe they do actually walk the walk.
Yeah, that's reassuring. Okay, so far so good. But I will say, one thing that struck me was just how much they focus on Newcastle. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you think that limits how useful this deep dive will be for people who aren't planning a bathroom reno in, Australia?
See, I think that's where it gets really interesting because, yeah, it's hyper local, but that actually reveals some pretty clever strategies, even like broader trends that I think anyone can use.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so for example, they're big on outdoor showers because, it's Newcastle and beach loving lifestyle and all that.
Right.
But it's smart because they're tapping into this very specific desire and anxiety that their ideal client has.
Yeah, but outdoor showers are getting popular everywhere now. It's not just a beach town thing anymore.
Exactly. And that's the clever part. So by focusing on Newcastle, they get to tap into this bigger, like national, even international design trend, right? But they're rooting it in something that feels specific and relatable to their local people.
Right.
So instead of just chasing a trend, it comes across as like, oh, we actually understand our clients and their desires and how they actually live.
That's a really good point. I always feel like following trends, by definition, just ends up looking dated a couple years down the line.
Oh.
It's so much more interesting when your design choices have like actual meaning, that reflect your personality.
Yeah. It's about telling your own story.
Yeah.
Not just like grabbing someone else's.
Right.
And I think LJB gets that, which is cool. And they do this other thing too, where they play up Newcastle's industrial history, like in their design aesthetic. They've got all those photos with the exposed brick, vintage looking fixtures.
Yeah, I noticed that. Which, I mean, it totally works for Newcastle, especially with all those converted warehouses they have down by the water.
Yes.
Exactly.
But I don't know. I'm not sure that translates to like a farmhouse in Vermont.
And that's fine. It's not about like directly copying a style. It's more about figuring out the story your own house wants to tell.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. So, like, take that Vermont farmhouse. Maybe your town has a history of, I don't know, textile production or something.
Okay, yeah.
So you could incorporate like some salvage factory windows or use reclaimed wood from an old mill in your bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
Or what if your house has those amazing Victorian bones? Maybe you lean into that with the colors or patterns, but then put, more modern spin on it.
It's like they're saying don't just slap a generic label on it. Figure out what makes it yours and celebrate that.
Yes, exactly. And this whole local thing, it even comes up in how they talk about sustainability. Yeah, I was wondering about that. They mentioned sustainable solutions and all these eco-friendly fixtures,
Right.
which again, very on trend these days. But what makes their approach different because of that whole Newcastle angle?
Because they connect it back to the community's values. So it's not just about being sustainable because it's good for the planet, which it is, but it's about being sustainable because it matters to the people who live in Newcastle.
So it's less about following a trend and more about like aligning your choices with what your community actually cares about.
Yeah.
Which honestly is a much better look.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of good looks, though, I got to be honest, their list of services,
Yeah.
kind of overwhelming. Like it's incredibly thorough.
But see, that's the point. It's a subtle way of being like, don't worry, we got you covered. Like, by listing literally everything they do, from demolition to the very last finishing touch, it tells the homeowner they don't have to stress about any of it.
Yeah, it's like they're anticipating your anxieties before you even have them.
Exactly. And they don't just stop at the practical stuff either. They use all this language like fulfilling your wildest vision and reflecting your unique personality,
Right.
which just shows that they understand this isn't just a plumbing job.
Yeah.
It's about creating a space that like truly reflects the person who lives there.
Okay, so it's not enough to just be good at the technical side. You have to connect with the homeowner, like emotionally.
Yeah.
Understand their anxieties, their vision, maybe even their dog's lockdown anxiety. But how do we translate that into like practical advice? For the person listening who's probably, knee deep in bathroom reno research right now.
That is a great question. What if we shift gears a little bit and talk about how to find contractors who share your values, even if, they're not like 2 blocks over, and specialize in Australian bathroom renovations?
I love that because I feel like people get so caught up in the practical stuff. Like, can this person actually, re-grout my shower?
Right.
That they forget about the importance of finding someone who they actually like vibe with. You know what I mean?
It makes such a difference, though. Think about it. It's your home.
Exactly.
It's where you're supposed to relax and feel comfortable. And if you and your contractor aren't on the same page,
Oh, forget it.
the whole thing just becomes way more stressful than it needs to be.
It's all about trust.
Totally.
Like trusting that they understand what you're going for, that they'll respect your budget, that they'll actually call you back.
Communication is key.
Yes. And it's so much more than just like checking off those generic boxes, quality customer service.
Yeah.
It's about those deeper values.
Exactly. And finding a company that speaks to your specific, like, anxieties. Like, are you worried about the renovation turning your life upside down?
Right. Like Vicky Dunn and her dog.
Exactly. So maybe you specifically seek out a company that's, like, really big on timelines and meticulous cleanup.
Yes.
Or even, like, offers those partnerships with doggy daycares for your pets.
Now that's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Or should I say the bathtub? It's those little things, though.
It makes all the difference.
Right. And what about for the person who's like super passionate about sustainable living, like we were talking about with LJB? Don't just settle for the contractor who's like, yeah, we've got like a couple of eco-friendly tile options if you want.
Right.
Find the one who's like actually excited about sourcing reclaimed wood or, knows where to get those locally made tiles you've been eyeing.
Find someone who speaks your language, who gets it.
Yes. Don't be afraid to ask those questions up front. Do a little digging. See if they pass the vibe check.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. Who knew we could get so much out of a company that's like on the other side of the world and specializes in bathrooms?
It's amazing what you can learn when you really start, like, paying attention.
It really is.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. Remember how LJB was so good at tapping into Newcastle's unique identity? What about your home? What's its story? How can you put more of your own personality, your local surroundings into the picture, even if you don't have, ocean views and a warehouse loft?
Ooh, I love that. It's about finding what makes your space special.
Exactly. Maybe it's as simple as finding a cool piece of art at a local flea market or using paint colors that remind you of like your favorite hiking trail. It's about authenticity over trends, creating a space that feels like truly personal.
I love it. Ditch the generic Pinterest boards, everyone, and dig into what makes your space and your story unique. You might just be surprised at the inspiration you find right in your own backyard. Until next time, happy renovating.